Enterprise structure. In this lecture, we will learn what is the enterprise structure, why is it important, how they are used, and how it's modeled in SAP. We'll also have a look at how the objects are interlinked and how they are configured in SAP. So what is the enterprise structure? And why is it so important? The enterprise structure is a way in which we model in SAP real life assets, both tangible and intangible, in a system. For example, a real asset could be a plant, and an intangible asset could be something like a company code. Against these objects in SAP, we will assign them certain attributes in the form of configuration. And this configuration is used to drive the process and behavior of these objects. For example, against the plant, I could assign a calendar that outlines the working and non-working day of that calendar. Also, with the enterprise structure, we have reporting. By having different objects, we can now query the system based on those objects. For example, I can have a historical report that shows me all of the sales orders per plant. The next type of reporting is the segregation of documents for further processing. With the enterprise structure, I can now select various objects that belong to a particular plant, for example, for further processing. For example, I can say, show me all of the deliveries that need to be shipped today for plant X. And finally, we can use the enterprise structure to organize our master data. What I mean by this is that the same master data could have different values based on the object that's been applied. For example, we could have different master data for the same customer based on where we are shipping it from. So a different plant will have different master data for that customer. Don't worry if this is a little bit confusing. We will look at this further when we look at the master data. Here is the standard enterprise structure used in the supply chain. There are other objects outside of this structure, but this is what we'll be using in the supply chain. On the top, you see the client, which is the SAP box in which all of the other objects live. In the client, you can have one or more company codes. And a company code is a legal entity that is allowed to carry out business activities such as selling in a particular region or country. By default, you would only want to have one company code per country, but there could be cases where there could be multiple company codes. It all really depends on the licensing and the type of activity the company does. These kind of decisions are usually done by the accounting people and not really by the supply chain. Assigned to the company code is a sales organization. One sales organization can be assigned to only one company code, but multiple sales organization could be assigned to a single company code, as you see here in the diagram. It is advisable for one company code to only have one sales organization. Why do you need more? The only time I have seen the need for more than one sales organization assigned to one company code is when the products being sold really are very, very, very different. They actually represent two separate businesses, right, in one company. One was for consumer goods and the other was for pharmaceutical, which required a totally different licensing and a totally different method of working. In the sales organization, we will have the configuration, which will define the attributes of the sales organization and drive the behavior of the sales organization. Against the sales organization, we have the distribution channel, which defines how the materials or services are sold to the customer. So I'll make a note here how materials are shipped to the customer. Against that distribution channel, we also have division, which is a form of dividing the customers. The combination of the sales organization, the distribution channel, and division is what we call a sales area. So we could have one sales organization, one distribution channel, and division. We see that together in combination becomes one sales area and drives the behavior, the master data, and reporting. Assigned to the company code, we also have the plant, which is part of the inventory management module, or IM. Now we assign a plant to one company code, and against this plant we assign a shipping point. The shipping point is responsible for the shipping and the means of transport for the deliveries. Of course, the plant will have more configuration, and we will look at that slightly later as part of our demo. A plant will have one or many storage locations assigned against it, and this in the inventory management is where we store our stock. The combination of plant and storage location determines the warehouse, which is in the WM or warehouse module, and in the warehouse we have a number of bin types, and this drives certain attributes for that bin. So, for example, if I were to create a sales order, and in that sales order I assign sales organization. Yeah, so I have the sales organization, it's pulled in and copied into the sales order. By default, I now know the company code, which also is then copied into the sales order. We then determine the plant through some determination rules, which would also then determine the attributes on how the sales order behaves, and we could also determine items like the storage location, for example the warehouse, and the shipping point. So, in summary, all of the objects that are determined in the sales order will drive the behavior of the document and allow us to run our reports based on certain objects on the document. So in summary, all of the objects that you see are interlinked together, and they form a structure and a hierarchy. Of course, there are more objects in finance, in purchasing, in production, and all of these objects together form what we call the structure of the company, or usually what we refer to as the enterprise structure. So let's go now to the next video and have a look at how we configure this
in SAP.